this thing is going over. You're supposed to be on now. Why is this program still on? You're supposed to be on now.
From the studios of Staten Island Community Television,
You're
you're
not on
watching
TV.
In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, joined by a friend of mine on the phone.
The hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV. The man of the hour with the power. Hector Bosa. That's me indeed.
Hector, great to have you on the show once again. You recently sent me a plethora of articles via text message. A lot of them having to do with the Knicks, and one having to do with Ronda Rousey as well.
Transgender people.
Transgender how
fighting
Ronda
in,
Rousey might have a phobia against transgender people. This
no,
has to
it's
do
not
with the
that she has a
transgender
phobia.
fighter
It's
that's on the circuit now.
It's not that there's a phobia. The only, it's like how is it, Renee Richardson?
Mm-hmm.
When she played tennis, and then they say, well, even though she may have the bone structure of a man, but that person takes hormone shots to become a female.
Right.
So does that person still have the strength of the man or of the female?
Right.
That's what they're trying to get at, because that's what Ronda Rousey in the article saying. And that's what I was wondering, because I don't know if this is going to be controversial. Is this going to be something that's going to be, happening a lot more? I'm sure it is.
Mm-hmm.
Are people going to say, well, now should they have their own leagues? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there are a lot of people that have no problems, but they're going to bring up these questions.
Yeah.
Now, what channel are we in again?
Well, just to let you and everyone else know, in case you're watching through Fios, we're on channel 37. And in case you're watching on Spectrum, we're on channel 1997.
Because right now, I see another program on. We're supposed to be live, and I don't see you on there.
Well, at least we'll have the rerun to entertain everybody after tonight.
Okay, well, another masterful CTV, wonderful, or whoever does the programming up there at Pennsylvania, wherever they does. But I was just wondering, what do you think of the so-called? Is that a controversy in itself? What Ronda Rousey said, or about?
Since when is Ronda Rousey ever shy about entering into controversy? That's first of all.
Right.
Second of all, it really shouldn't have to be, because this woman, and I'm going to call her a woman because that's what she's competing as.
Right.
So far has done very well for herself, and I think she should be commended for her record.
Yes, that's understandable. But again, bone structure of a man may still have a little bit of the man's strength, even though they say that the hormone shots that they get, the estrogen goes down, everything goes down, they become more like women. But as Ronda Rousey, and I'm sure she's not the only one that says this, that she's not the only one that's thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that she's the one that will say it. Because whether it's controversy or not, it's going to be said anyway. And then by a person saying it, it's going to be controversial. Because then they're going to say, well, oh, she's hating, and this person doesn't understand this, and this person doesn't understand that. And people have to get educated. You're right. People do have to get educated.
Mm-hmm.
But the body that you were born with, she may be right about the skeletal structure of the bone density.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to. That's what the article's trying to say, and I'm sure she's not the only one that's going to come out and say, well.
So basically, you're saying that she's coming across more physically as a man more than a woman, correct?
What the article, from what I remember reading, is that although she is a female because she took the hormone shots and everything,
mm-hmm.
Ronda Rousey is saying that she still may have a little bit of the male strength, and because of her bone density,
she should not be competing.
That she should not be in that. Yeah, she shouldn't be competing, or that it should be separate or something like that. And that part I didn't really read, but all I know is that particular part. And like I said, Renee Richardson was a big deal back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another one. Did Renee Richardson win a lot of tennis games? Because he became a she? Or should I say a male turned into a female? Did Renee Richardson win a lot of tennis
I'd
games?
probably have to Google search her just to see exactly what her record was.
But I'm just saying in general that I don't think she won that many that many games. And there is an up and coming of people that are transgender now, which is fine by me. I'm sure it's fine as a good religious person that you're supposed to love everyone, because the bad ones are the ones that go, oh, we can't love them because they're this and they're that. No. Love thy neighbor, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have this it's like the gentleman that went into the Olympics,
right?
And he had no legs.
Oh, you mean Oscar Pistorius?
With the whatchamacallit, let's say the skis.
You mean Oscar Pistorius, right?
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
And they say that he could run faster than most people because of the way the skis, I call them skis that turn upwards,
mm-hmm.
that he was able to run faster.
Uh-huh.
And, that was a little bit controversial, even though the Disability Act got in there. But
mm-hmm.
should a person that has and that was a controversial too, because then they're saying he has an advantage.
Yeah.
So this person, I think the lady's name is Fox, does she have an advantage over those same people, over those other women? That's another thing that I think Ronda Rousey's trying to come up with. And again, I'm sure, some people will call it, oh, well, she's hating. And some people are calling, well, maybe this is going to be something of a controversial thing, because people are going to say, well, that person should not be competing.
Right.
because she was a male, even though he turned into a female and got the shots and everything. So, what do you say in all this?
Well, let me tell you about the person that you're talking about, Renee Richardson.
Right.
She won 2 All Navy championships, was the New York State clay court champion in 1964, and was ranked as high as 6th nationally in the men's 35 and over division when he competed as a man.
Right.
And from what I understand, Renee Richardson is now working as an ophthalmologist, not just here, but in California as well.
Right.
So, long story short, tell me what your question is.
When Renee Richardson, we already know the record as a man, but what was her record as a female?
As a female, unfortunately, wait, let me see if I can look elsewhere.
Because some studies have shown that, once they take their shots and their hormone shots and everything, that they become lower and everything is fine. They become fully female. They have the strength of an actual female.
Well, it says in 1977 she became the first person to play both as a male and as a female, and she competed between 1977 and 1981. And her best singles finish was a 3rd-round loss at the U.S. Open in 1979. And in doubles competition, she made it to the finals before losing to Martina Navratilova and Betty Ann Stove with her partner Betty Ann Stewart.
So basically,
she competed well as a man and as a woman.
Yeah, but she didn't overpower anybody. She didn't win consecutive world championships or anything of that nature. She had
not any major titles, no.
She had a reasonable. She wasn't a Martina Navratilova, basically, or Chrissy Everett.
No.
Okay, so that ends one. So by that statement alone, is the argument is that yes, they can compete, or no, they shouldn't compete?
Yes, they can compete. In my eyes, they can compete as a man or as a woman, or even both, if you ask me.
But do they have an advantage? That's
Does
another
it give
question.
them an
That's
advantage?
the other thing.
It depends on the individual.
That's also true too. But if you lump it up in a group, let's say 60% do have the advantage, 40% don't. That's what I think the article's trying to say, and I think that's what she's trying to say, that there's going to be a lot of controversy. It's not that she's trying to hate. Some people will get that from the article, but I don't think it. Like I said, I'm sure she's not the only one that thinks that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good article. Give it a good read, and we'll talk about it next time, because there's going to be a lot of people coming up that are transgender, that have turned from male to female or from female to male.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be some what people are going to call controversial things of that nature.
Speaking of which, did you hear about the former WWE wrestler who converted into being a female?
Yeah, it was a gentleman that turned to a female, and he's going to compete as a female now. I forgot the person's name. He was in NXT, I think, or WWE.
He was in
I
WWE.
just forgot his name. And AEW, Nyla Rose.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, is it controversial? We'll know down the line. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be very opinionated about this. And
opinionated or hateful?
Some people are going to be hateful about it. Some people are going to be opinionated because they're going to say, well, it's not that I dislike, I'll support the LGBTQ community. But, if this male transformed into a female, and as Ronda Rousey said, she has the bone structure of a man. Does this person still, even though they're taking the hormone shots and everything, does that person still have a little bit of the male strength and so on? And some people will say, well, that person is not educated because when they take the hormone shots and everything else they have to do, that's supposed to bring them down to a level of female strength. If there is, you get my point?
Mm-hmm.
So that, some people are going to come out and say, well, if that's the case, they should have their own league. If that's the case, they should do this. I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of people, and some people are going to say, well, oh, it's just that they don't like the LGBTQ community. People can have their own opinions and say things of that nature without saying, oh, well, that person's a hater. No, it's just an opinion going, does this person should compete in the UFC, knowing full well that person still may have a little bit of the male strength, even though, again, they're still saying, well, hormone shots, the estrogen comes down, everything goes down,
mm-hmm.
and so on. So, again, I'm just bringing it up because that's the way a lot of people are going to be thinking about it.
Right.
And as I said before, even religious groups don't like this. Instead of loving thy neighbor, what they'll do is, oh, we can't have them in churches. We can't do this. We can't do that. Let's crucify them. It's really ridiculous in some shape or form. I mean, hell, they're fighting for us in the military, but yet you want to kick them out. That's another ridiculous thing. I don't get that part either. But moving on.
It's funny that we mentioned
the New York Knicks.
Yeah, I was about to touch on another former MMA fighter who got herself in a bit of controversy. Remember, unfortunately, the name escapes me. So, you know what? Maybe I'll get to her later. Go ahead and talk about the Knicks, man.
Well, I sent you a couple of articles about the Knicks. And
yeah, one of them, which was touching on a hot button question. And that's
one, should they be sellers or buyers?
Yes.
Two, should they get if MC McCullough, if available? Should they get Victor Tupo? Or
Victor Oladipo, you mean?
Yeah, Oladipo or Bradley Beal. And if so, the Knicks have a lot of draft picks.
Bradley Beal is going to be a free agent this summer. They could probably get him by then. Bradley Beal, if I'm not mistaken, I think is under contract for another year or two.
Yeah, I think he's under contract for 2 years.
Under contract for another 2 years after this one.
Right.
Bradley Beal is a terrific player. There's no doubt about that. Whether they should try and sacrifice valuable draft picks for him or not, I would hope that the Wizards would take on players as well as draft picks. But knowing how the Wizards want to do business, because they're one of the worst teams in the league right now, and they're at that point where maybe they could be a lottery team. In fact, I think they are a lottery team.
Well, they have to start building. Either they're going to build around Bradley Beal, or they're going to just have to start from scratch. And maybe they'll, as one of the articles that I read said, that they can pull a James Harden trade.
Yeah, well, good luck with that one, man, because a James Harden trade is really, really difficult but creative to try and come by. When the Nets made the deal, they got a third team involved to try and get Harden onto their roster, and they had to sacrifice two really, really good young players, Jared Allen and also Karis LeVert, who we now know has kidney cancer.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. To try and make this deal work.
Well, that's the thing.
As far as the Knicks are concerned,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, as far as the Knicks are concerned, I can answer that question for you. Because they're so close to being a playoff team, what hurt would it do to them to try and be buyers?
Well, it all depends who they're buying for and how much you're willing to give up. Because if you're willing to give up, let's say, because like I said, they have, I think, 8 number 1 draft choices.
8 number 1 picks, wow.
Yeah, 8 number 1 picks and about 4 or 5 number 2 picks.
Yeah, that's a lot of capital to try and consider.
And then they have the 1-year contracts
that are going to expire at the end of the summer.
Exactly. So if Washington decides to go and say, you know what, let's pick up the 1-year guys, let's make more salary cap space, let's get we're smart organization, let's get as many draft choices as we can for Bradley Beal, and then start from scratch. You know, let's do it, because, you know, if there were 4 players on the Knicks, or let me answer it this way. Ask you this way: who on the Knicks is untouchable?
That leads to the other article that you wound up sending us, and they actually mentioned 5 guys that are untouchable. Let's see, there's Emmanuel Quickley, who's been terrific. Mitchell Robinson, who when healthy is more than just a rim protector anymore. He's a shot blocker now.
And the backup center is really good too.
Mm-hmm. I think you're mentioning Alec Burks. Well, anyway.
No, the four was it's R.J. Barrett.
R.J. Barrett was another one.
Emmanuel Quigley, Mitchell Robertson,
and Julius Randle.
And Julius Randle,
who has now become their best player in the last year and a half of ball.
And Obi Thompson, maybe.
And Obi Toppin,
maybe
yeah.
Obi Tobin. So those are the 4. Now, would you get rid of Randle, or would you trade for him to get more draft choices, or would you try to keep him and start building now since you're in 7th place?
Trading away your best player who's been putting you in position to be a playoff team?
Unless you can get a better player, a more quality player than him. If you can send him and another quality player to get a better player, maybe. But if you're going to build around him, and then let's say get a Bradley Beal, and let's say Victor coming here, or again, it all depends who you're trading away, because they were talking about trading R.J. Barrett.
He was a bit of a disappointment his rookie year. His sophomore year hasn't really changed that much. I mean, he has had a couple of good games here and there, but otherwise, his game hasn't changed at all.
Well, again, he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
At some point, Emmanuel Quigley is starting off great, but it could, let's see what happens next year or in the year after. Sometimes people start off great and then burn out. And some people take their sweet time and going, you know what, they're just homing in their game for 2 or 3 years, and then afterwards, in the 4th year or 5th year, they blossom into one of the greatest players of all time.
This is true.
There was one that said, should they buy, should they sell? The other one was, should they trade Julius Randle? Should they get Bradley Beal if the Wizards are willing to give him up? And then who are you willing to give up? Well, R.J. Barrett plus draft choices and so on, because they do, like I said, they do have a lot of draft choices. So if that's all you're counting on is the draft choices and your 1-year contracts, there's someone out there that's willing to do it, and they have a good salary cap already.
Yeah, for the first time in forever.
Exactly, and if you're building around Julius Randle, and then you have him, plus when Mitchell Robinson comes back, and Obi Toppin, if he still lives up to his name, and you still have R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quigley, that's not a bad team. I mean, they're 14 and 16 already. I know that's a quarter way down the line. That's not really much.
Almost halfway down the line.
It's halfway down the line, so that's not bad, considering that's a team that is not supposed to make the playoffs. They're still in transition to still rebuilding. Now, I'm wondering is if they kept those draft choices, I would love to find out who they would pick, because that's scary. Because just because you have all those draft choices, that doesn't mean that that a lot of them are gonna come out, because your favorites are Frank Nikita.
Yeah, right. There's one guy who's on the list of guys
He's a defensive specialist
on the way out.
And Kevin Knox.
Another guy.
Again, how old is he? 20, 21 years old?
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. I think they're willing to trade him, Frank Nikita, and maybe an R.J. Barrett just to get someone of a higher caliber. But all in all, in your opinion, should the Knicks be sellers or buyers?
They need to be buyers. If they're really close to being a playoff team and they're really serious about wanting to be a playoff team, they should be buyers. And as far as the players that you mentioned, Bradley Beal or Victor Oladipo, or if Lady Luck is really on their side, both.
C.J. McCollum.
C.J. McCollum? Yes. Oh, C.J. McCollum from the Blazers?
Yes, that's another one that they're targeting.
Oh,
even though the Blazers
I don't know
saying
about that
no.
one, man. I mean, the Blazers have been really happy with McCollum's production. I mean, I know that he's been so at best this season, but at the same time, McCollum is a guy that's really put his heart and soul into the Blazers, and I'm not sure Portland wants to talk turkey with anybody about him.
Okay, so let's go with Beal and Victor.
Victor Oladipo is tempting, but he's had a checkered medical history. Same thing with Bradley Beal. Who would I have to pick in order to make the team better? Oladipo, Beal.
Because those are the only 2 or 3 that they
Chronic
always
knee
mention
injury.
in the news articles. There's
Numerous
no other...
injuries. Tell you what, I actually think that I think Bradley Beal is the better player, overall player, but Victor Oladipo is better in the clutch. And if you want somebody who can make a big shot for you in the clutch, you pick him.
I think Beal is older. He's 28 or 29 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how old Victor is. And if you go by age and you go by what type of injury that they had, that's another thing to consider.
I know Victor Oladipo had this really bad knee injury that he suffered when he was with Indiana a few years ago. And a lot of people thought that he might be out as much as 2 years because of that injury. But fortunately, he's back to being normal again. So, if the Knicks were to be interested in a guy like Oladipo, they would probably have to give up at least 3 number 1 draft picks and 2 players. But they would have to be really good players that could make an impact immediately. I doubt they're going to get away with giving up Kevin Knox and Frank Ntilikina. R.J. Barrett, maybe. And who knows? They might be interested in acquiring Julius Randle. Who knows? Not only that, but Randle is a Texas native, so I would think that he would like to play closer to his hometown, which is Dallas.
Should he be an all-star?
He should definitely be an all-star, yes. He's been outstanding this year.
And, that's another thing. That was another article. Do you trade Julius Randle or do you keep him? And then just go, who do you trade him for? What do you trade him? There's a whole bunch of articles about that. But
yeah. If it were up to me, the answer would be no, because Julius Randle has been their go-to guy this season.
And he's 28 years old.
Yeah.
And I think you can build around him. And his contract is, for 2 more years or 1 more year left?
This year, and I think next year is an option year for him.
3 years, I think.
This year and next year.
Right. So,
which I think is an option year.
And if you get good players, because like you said before, what top player wants to come to the New York Knicks? Not too many. Unless they get him via a trade, and then they see how good they can really be. Let's say they get they keep Randle, and they get Bradley Beal with the team of Mitchell Robertson, Obi Toppin, Randle, R.J. Barrett, and Bradley Beal playing together, and then your backup is Emmanuel Quigley and whoever else, and you got a good secondary. So that being said, with just what I mentioned, do you think people will want to play with the Knicks now? Do you think the top players will want to play for the Knicks if they have those 2 players?
Not now, but if they give them time, if they give them maybe the rest of this year and maybe next year, if
they continue winning,
if they continue to win games, and right now they're 2 games under 500, but
right,
that is a far cry from last year and the year before. Let's put it that way.
Because I'm looking at the development. If they show that they can win and they can play, then like I said with the Brooklyn Nets, if you get Durant, you get Kyrie, and people are going to want to play for that team.
James Harden said he wanted to be a Brooklyn Net, and look where he is right now. Exactly. And now he's leading the league in assists.
Exactly. So you understand what I mean now?
Yeah.
If you have great players or good players around you, people are going to want to play on that team. So now, if that's what I'm saying, if the Knicks can get, let's say, Bradley Beal, and you still have Julius Randle, and the team develops into a better team, do you think down the line they're going to be the top players are going to want to play for that team?
Down the line, maybe. But there's
Not
still,
this year, though,
there's still the issue of the owner.
Yeah, that's true.
I think we all know what this guy has done in years past to try and put his blood prints on that team.
Yeah. But so far so good. He hasn't done anything.
Yeah. So we don't need to discuss him right now. We know what he's done.
So that's what I'm saying, because me and you we went over this a lot of times, and we said what team, what player, what elite player wants to play for the Knicks.
Now, there is none.
There is none.
They have to give them time.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of years to see if they raise their win total, and if so, maybe they can make a consideration into wanting to play for them.
But like I said too, and this is a fact. The only way they're going to get an elite player here is if they trade for him.
That's
if they trade, let's say, for Bradley Beal or Victor or some other person, that's the only way they're going to get an elite player here. And then they got to show, hey, listen, we're trying to build this team, and you got to make him happy, because if you trade for him and he's not happy, you're not going to get an elite player here.
Yeah, you're going to get less than an elite player.
Unless he just wants the money, you're not going to get an elite player here.
Nope.
What do you think of D. Rose coming back to the Knicks?
I think it was a nifty move, strictly for the stretch run, because he's healthy once again, and also he's actually been playing. The stats don't show it, but he's been playing some good basketball. And ever since he arrived in New York for the second time, he's been playing great basketball. And more importantly, he's been a mentor to Emmanuel Quigley and some of the other young players that are on the team.
And he's playing with a coach that he really likes, I guess.
I don't know what it is about Tom Thibodeau.
You love him or hate him?
I mean, he made the Bulls a contender for quite a few years. And then he turned Minnesota into a playoff contender for a year. Now he's on his third team as a head coach, and he's this close to making them a playoff contender. This close. This guy needs to be considered for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, that's another thing. When was the last time a Knicks coach was a player of the year, or was a coach of the year? And was there ever a Yankee coach that was a... Because the Yankees are always the empire of doomed. So, was there ever a Yankee coach or manager that was ever... Was there a manager of the New York Yankees that won a manager award?
Of course.
Who? Billy Martin?
I think Billy Martin around 1976 or 77 or so. I could probably look that up for you. Let me see if I can find
or
that.
was it Buck Showalter? Because I know that much because I don't remember a New York Knick ever winning a head coach the awards for head coach award, unless it was Brown. You know, but the Yankees, when it comes to their manager, because they're so solid, a lot of times they hardly ever in contention to be manager of the year.
Yeah. Because they figure it was the players that got them there, not the manager. But the manager is always. And for the record, Joe Torre was manager of the year in 1998.
Oh, wow.
And he was also co-manager of the year with the late Johnny Oates in 1996.
Speaking of the Yankees, Cole's getting the first pitch in the season.
Yeah, he's going to be the opening day starter.
They signed Gardner for 1 year,
which I'm happy about because Brett Gardner has put his blood, sweat, and tears into that franchise.
And they signed an ex-Met.
Yeah, that's right. Justin Wilson.
Yeah, so give it. Like I said, how do you rate them right now on paper?
On paper, I think their batting order is deadly. Pitching wise, I think their bullpen is rock solid, and their starting rotation after Cole and Corey Kluber and the kid that they wound up getting from Pittsburgh, they actually have 3 or 4 guys that they could go to try and get a 4th and 5th starter. They could go with either Domingo Germán or Luis Severino or Davy Garcia. That's 3 guys that they could plug into 2 spots. So I think they have a little bit more depth in their starting rotation now than they have in years past.
And they signed a closer.
Mm-hmm.
They signed another closer.
Mm-hmm.
And their middle relief is
Darren O'Day was the
too.
kid that was the veteran that they signed.
So, and they should be pretty solid unless they do what they normally do. You know. Hey, okay. Should they trade Gary Sanchez?
Should they trade Gary Sanchez? No. Will they trade him? Don't be surprised if they do. Because they were a lot more enamored with Kyle Higashioka at the end of the year than they were with Sanchez.
Because, it's like everything else. When he hits, he's a fantastic hitter.
Yeah.
But when he's in a slump, they can't hit a lick. You figure the three top hitters on that damn team.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not hurt, look what they do in the playoffs. Nothing.
Yeah.
Judge and Stanton, they do nothing. They try, but come on, Sanchez done better than them.
Yeah, this is true. But I think Sanchez has worked hard enough in the offseason where he's going to try and prove a lot of people wrong about him.
And the other thing is, at some point, do you switch him to another position? Do you switch him to first base?
No, you can't make a guy like him a first baseman. He doesn't have the agility or the athletic ability to be a first baseman.
Then where do you put him? Because it's either first base, outfield, or an automatic DH.
Outfield, he will look like a fish out of water. I'll tell you that right now.
Because figure it. Look at all the players that have been, all the catchers that have been first. Johnny Bench.
Yeah.
Johnny Bench went from outfield to first base.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it the other way around? Yeah, he went to outfield then to first base.
Yeah.
And they did try him at first base too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as if he hasn't played first, but you know. So let me see. So what's going to be? So Sanchez at catcher. Who's on first? What's on second?
And I don't know who's on third.
Seriously, who's on first?
Luke Voigt.
Oh, I'm surprised they bring him back. Okay. Second.
DJ LeMahieu, who they gave that 6-year contract to.
Shortstop.
Gleyber Torres.
Third base.
Gio Urshela.
Right field.
Right field is Aaron Judge. Hopefully
Center
a young Aaron Judge.
Center field?
Center field would be Aaron Hicks.
And left field?
Left field would most likely be Clint Frazier.
Clint Frazier or Stanton? Because he plays the outfield when they want to relieve somebody from DH. And DH is Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad lineup. And they got a decent bench, too.
Yes, they do.
It's not that they get... And the Mets...
The Mets are in a really interesting position this year. Not only do they have a lot of depth in their pitching staff, but they've also added some depth to their bench as well. They've gotten Jonathan Villar and also Kevin Pillar, who split time between San Francisco and Toronto and spent the majority of his career with the Toronto Blue Jays and split time between San Francisco and Boston.
And pitching, too.
Yeah, pitching as well. You look at the staff that the Mets have. It's of course Jacob deGrom, who, by the way, has been subject of rumors of getting a new contract.
Yes.
Jacob deGrom, Marcus Stroman, who decided to re-sign with the Mets for this season. Carlos Carrasco, who they got in the Lindor trade. And they also got Taijuan Walker on a 2-year deal. Walker is somebody who has been up and down for the majority of his career. He's been beset by a couple of injuries. But otherwise, he's just been okay for the teams that he's pitched in the past. He's pitched with Seattle, he's pitched with San Francisco, and also spent time with the Blue Jays as well.
Noel Syndergaard is being roasted.
Noah Syndergaard being roasted?
Yeah, they were having a Twitter fight or somebody that.
I think I know why.
Good.
Because
you can probably say better than I can. Go ahead.
My guess is that he probably got into a Twitter fight with Trevor Bauer.
Yeah.
For not signing with the Mets.
But but who do they have as closer and who do they have as middle relief?
Closers Edwin Diaz. Middle relief is Jody Familia and also Robert Gesellman and Dylan Betances.
So they're pretty good then. They're pretty solid.
On paper, they're pretty solid, yeah. But then again, there's the matter of having to execute on the field.
Yeah. So who's catching for them?
Catcher is the guy that they gave a 4-year deal to, James McCann.
Who's on first?
Peter Alonso.
Second.
Jeff McNeil.
Third.
Francisco Lindor.
Left field. Oh, shortstop. I'm sorry. Shortstop.
Shortstop is Francisco Lindor.
Third base.
J.D. Davis.
Left field.
This time it's going to be Dominic Smith, although that might change. They might want to get themselves a true left fielder. Dominic Smith is more of a first baseman.
Center field.
Center field is Brandon Nimmo.
And right field
is Michael Conforto.
And do they have a pretty good bench?
Bench-wise, they're going to be a little bit better. I mentioned before that they have Kevin Pillar and also Jonathan Viad. And they also have the backup catcher, Tomas Nido, who's going to be showing up a lot of time on the bench this year.
And the funny thing that I see is that double headers are 7 innings.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a man on second.
For extra innings.
Which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah. They only do that for softball. Now they're going to do that for Major League Baseball. I'm not too thrilled about it.
When I played softball, I never played that way either. But okay, if you say so, because I never, But and are they going to have the DH this year?
No DH in the National League.
So it was just a trial basis.
Yeah.
I wonder. I'm surprised it didn't work. I'm surprised it. Well, you know what it is? Because they'll say right away, "Oh, we're not built for this." But you have hitters.
They are. They've got the hitters for it. They just don't want to follow the route of the American League. They want to keep their stupid traditions going.
Because they're going to say, "Oh, well, we miss playing small ball. Yeah, the pitcher. The pitcher only bunts." Oh, well,
that's all he's meant for.
Their strategy. The manager has a lot of strategy. In American League, there's no strategy. But in National League, there's a lot of strategy. Because then you get you put a pitcher in right field, then you bring him in again so you can pitch, and you do a double switch and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. Tell you what, though, there are some pitchers that can really hit.
Yeah,
Noah Syndergaard's got some power.
I hear you. I understand that, but they don't really get the hit. The only time they really get the hit is when they're probably playing single A ball or pony. But as they get up in the ranks, they don't get the hit.
No.
They don't get the hit. If they were hitting like the regular players, from what I see, then it'd be okay. But if you're more worried about, if the guy's a lefty pitcher and you're hitting righty because you want to you're protecting your left arm,
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. So the purists out there are going to say, well, we want it pure because the double switches. And people are finding baseball boring. That's why they're doing this 7-inning thing and the other nonsense.
It's unfortunately, I hate to say this, but it's long been boring in the eyes of a lot of people.
And baseball in everything else has not been. A lot of people have not been. Kids haven't been wanting to play baseball and all that. And
the only thing they want to play
trying.
Right now is their video games.
Yeah, that's true. And hopefully one day it'll become an Olympic sport, most likely. But I wouldn't be too surprised, like we were talking about before.
Perish the thought, please.
Come on. There's a lot of sports in there that should not be sports at all. And then they took some of them out. What was it? Wrestling. How could you take wrestling out?
The oldest sport in the Olympics, and it gets eliminated. I just don't get it.
Unbelievable. And the other thing is, will there be an Olympics this year?
There's a lot of talk about it, that because of the pandemic, there's a strong possibility that the Olympics might be canceled altogether.
And if so, will they do it next year?
Will they do it next year? I'm not too sure about that. They may have to wait until 2024.
They're not going to wait until 2024 because it's
when
It's
they have the
not
games in
like Jimmy
Paris.
Carter in 1984 when they boycotted the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that way. I think they'll probably do it the year after. So that's just that's in this occasion, not like what we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
In how we opened up. This is my opinion now. My opinion is that they'll probably do it in 2021 because I remember hearing about that they were talking about it. If they don't do it this year, that they'll probably do it next year. Because it's not fair for the Olympic. It's not fair for them. It's not fair. They've trained all these years, and they're getting older. They don't know how long they have left. In the Olympics. So
there are some athletes who compete into a ripe old age, though.
It all depends what sport.
I know there's a female gymnast who competed into her 40s. 40 years of age, and she was still competing in gymnastics.
One of those very rare occasions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very rare occasion. But I tell you, The Miz won the WWE Championship from Drew McIntyre to help Bobby Lashley helped out. I don't know how they're going. Kenny Omega is still champion at AEW. Tamataga is talking a lot of great stuff against the Good Brothers and all that, and somewhat true.
Mm-hmm.
And in hockey, they're doing their thing. Oh, Sam Donald. Yeah, him.
Sam Darnold of the Jets? I know.
Yeah.
He's
get rid of him?
The Jets are reevaluating him behind the scenes, and they're also evaluating some of the kids that are in the NFL draft to see exactly what they want to do.
They got the number 2 pick. People are interested in this kid. Because remember what I said. I've been saying all along. The coaches will probably get rid of him because they're going to want to start anew. Mm-hmm. Even though there's other teams that are interested in this kid. So, in your opinion, what do you do?
My opinion is that the Jets should start all over again at quarterback because Sam Darnold, quite frankly, has just not gotten it done. He's been a turnover waiting to happen. His field vision has been very, very poor. I mean, how do you go a whole season with your quarterback throwing 9 touchdowns?
Could that be because the way the team is set up, your coaches are not doing what they're supposed to be doing? Because the coach, when they picked him, remember, the coach, when they picked him, he's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. This is my man. And as soon as that coach leaves, boom, he's already in a chopping block. When was the last time you seen a coach come in there and have a young quarterback and not go and say, you know what, I want my own quarterback in there?
How about Bill Parcells and the Giants? Almost 40 years ago.
But that's 40 years ago. Jesus, well, you have to go back that far. Okay. It's 7:59 right now.
Yep. Hector, thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Ladies and gentlemen, love thy neighbor, and please wear your mask because I don't want to get sick.
Okay, then. Thanks to Kenny on the other side of the glass as well. So for everyone here, I'm Jaime.
I'm Hector.
In the words of Tony Kornheiser, good night, Canada.
Good night, all.